Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Green man in the desert night, Bigfoot roaming out of sight. Government shadows, secrets deep, conspiracies unfold while we sleep. Strange encounters unexplained, truth is out that really chain. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling history, stories untold. Area 51, a whispered name. UFO sightings, a haunting flame. Loch Ness monster, a watery myth. Cryptozoology, a curious gift. Strange encounters unexplained. Truth is out that really change. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling mystery, stories untold. Skeptics doubt, believers yearn for answers hidden yet to learn. In the twilight zone where logic ends, the search continues without ends. Strange encounters unexplained. Truth is out that really change. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling mystery, stories untold. Truth is out there. Truth is out there.
And And good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saturday night here on KLR Radio. You just hopefully finished hanging out with the folks on the front porch doing front porch forensics. They're now producing that one on their own, which is great because it frees up a little bit more time for me. And now we have officially hit Juxtober. You guys know what that means. There'll be 5 episodes of Juxtaposition this month. Technically 4 in October, 1 in the very first Saturday in November. And we're going to be talking cryptids all month long. And our good friend Ordnance J. Packard, who is my co-host on this endeavor, has been putting in the lion's share of the work on these episodes. So if you like him, make sure you give him a hell yeah, because he's doing the lifting.
And if you,
How you doing,
if you don't
man? How you
send
doing?
hate mail to klrnradio.com.
That's all right. I'll make you your own so they can send all the hate mail to you. It'll be
Yeah,
okay.
just forward them on to me.
We can do that.
How you doing, man?
We can do that. I'm doing all right, I guess. I've got a tech coming out again Tuesday to hopefully finish with all my internet shenanigans because the internet's still being a little weird, so they're gonna try a complete overhaul. So hopefully it'll be done before we gotta do Manorama, because fun times. But,
Nice. Now I heard you mention the other night somebody was nice enough to donate the KLRN account a gold check.
yeah, they said I will give you the starter for 1 month, and what you do from it from there will be up to you.
Right.
But yeah, they're like, please make sure it gets used for this because that's what I want to see if it helps. And I'm like, okay, cool. So yeah, I gotta admit, we've had a couple of really big benefactors lately. Some small, some not so small, who have chosen to remain anonymous. But that one really kind of surprised me because I got an email and they're like, hey, about to send you something. This is what I want you to use it for. And I got to admit, the gold check and the square badge look pretty good on the network. I got to say, they look pretty. It looks snazzy.
Makes us look official.
Snazzy. I know, right? I was like, dude, we were like number 3 a minute ago, and everybody from 1, 2, and 3 was all like gold check accounts.
Yeah,
like that's awesome.
That's great.
Anyway, so how are you, my friend? How are you?
I'm good. You know what? I'm in the middle of my birth week, tail end of it. But yeah, no, it was a great birthday. Gorged myself on sushi and German chocolate cake, which I am wont to do, and am now 2 days into my 54th trip around the sun.
Yeah, you had me at German chocolate cake because that's really, really good. Overpriced bait, not so much. And before anybody yells at me, I did officially try it. I still don't like it.
Okay.
I have been trying to expand my palate, so I have been eating things I haven't eaten before. Like I've tried some Vietnamese food. I actually kind of like pho, a lot of it. Other than that, I don't really care about. And then I did try sushi with a friend a few months ago, and I was like, "Yep, nope, can't do it." Nope.
It took me a while to find it because I don't like salmon, and it's like, oh, here, try the sushi or try the sashimi, and it'd be salmon or something. I'd be like, no, still don't like it. Finally, I was able to settle on because I've always loved like good tuna, especially like seared ahi. So my go-tos are spicy tuna, crunchy roll, and then the place I go to, they have one where they'll take tempura shrimp, wrap it in ahi, and then put it in a sushi roll, and then do like the volcano sauce and shit on it. And it's fantastic. So yeah, I just gourded myself on that and miso soup, and yeah, so good times. And I'm
no cream of some guy.
No, that's Chinese.
Just checking.
Yeah. And I'm 4 days into the 31 days of Boingo and haven't been suspended yet. So
you just
you know what? I think if I keep saying it, it won't happen. It's like,
that's what you thought last year.
No, last year,
and then it happened.
Last year blindsided me. So because that was a pretty nothing tweet I did. I've said much worse.
I mean, G got a 7-day rip for telling somebody to fillet themselves with a cactus or something. So yeah, I was like, that's kind of lame and tame for you. So
well, I mean, I got suspended once for using a GIF from Twitter's own GIF library. So apparently, it's all about context. Anyway,
yeah, but anyway,
how about you?
So this month we are all about cryptids, and I still really kind of need to get with Jeff to see if we can find something that sounds kind of like Wayward Son, but isn't, for the previously on Juxtaposition, especially for topics like this one, because this is all up in supernatural business. So,
yes, didn't you put a Vincent?
Oh, well, yeah, I have that. It's already right here and ready to
Okay,
go.
good.
So we do have this.
Previously on Juxtaposition.
Nice.
I left some of the I left some of the distortion in because it makes it sound creepy.
Yes, it does. Yes.
So
Yeah, I like the it's almost AM radio-y. So
that's kind of what I was going for.
yeah. And Sirdahi is a cryptid, yes.
I'm sorry, you did what to who for how many jelly donuts?
What's that? You're a robot.
You a robot. That's what I wondered.
Okay.
You know
well,
what
one of us
you
is
just
a robot. Oh, yeah, I said is Sirdahi a cryptid? I said yes, it is.
Uh-oh. What just so hang on. Okay, so everything in here just went nuts. I don't know what just happened. All right,
Yeah, I just got disconnected. Okay, you know what? This isn't a topic that we're going to be cursed on. We're not doing witches. We're not doing demons. Come on. This is just, yeah.
yeah, I don't know what happened there. It's like all of a sudden everything just went nuts. Like it started trying to play Jeff's song and you were gone. And I'm like, that's not even the screen I was on. Anyway.
Did you just mash your face on the keyboard? Is that what
Nope. I did not. I wish I had this kind of weird. They would be fine. Oh, were issues.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go and delete all these cursed items from our Discord.
You know, we probably need to do that.
You know, you cleared up as soon as I deleted Myrtle's Mirror from last week.
I have no idea what's going on.
That's on you, man. I have no control over that.
No, I did. It's my computer. It's doing it all on its own. I'm not even kidding.
Okay.
It's
maybe
all of a sudden it told me the connection was gone, and the next thing I know, it was like, oh, the connection's back, and then it starts trying, and then it kicked you off, kicked you right back in, started playing the song again, and I'm like,
That's weird. Okay, yeah. At least I know it's not me. Hang on, I'm almost through it. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, a couple of weeks ago on Jux, we did cursed items, and like Robert the Doll and stuff like that. And I'm going through because we started to have technical difficulties last week, and so I just went through and deleted all the images of all the cursed items. So if we clear up through this, and I swear, we're not just doing this to be spooky. This is actually live radio, and because we're not cool enough to think about things like let's
yeah,
be spooky.
I wouldn't be cool enough to plan in some like glitches and stuff and then play it off. No. This is actually happening. And it's weird because it only ever really happens as we get closer to October.
Yeah, especially when, for those of you who have been listening to this to a long time, when we did Juxtober on demonology, and then we did a Juxtober on witches, and we did another one too. And we were absolutely cursed. We couldn't make shows. Like shit was popping up that was just interfering with us. Technical difficulties, just bizarre. So anyway, this isn't one of those topics. We avoided those topics so we could get through a year that we knew we could get 5 episodes, do a deep dive with a new 2-hour format, and actually, glitches ain't shit with tools and tricks. Nice.
That's really good, man. Oh, that's actually really good. Yeah, I won't even let me put his comment up on the screen. Everything just froze on me.
Okay.
There it goes.
So,
now it's up again, though.
All right. Boy, this is going to be fantastic. So we better get started before we can do any of it.
Right. I'm guessing this has something to do with the fact that I have to have a tech come back out again. So probably.
Yeah.
At least I'm hoping, because I really don't want the Halloween curse to continue.
Yeah, your modem is haunted. So, starting out, we've broken down each of these into a different classification of cryptids. Each week is going to be a different classification of cryptids, whether it's water or whatever. Tonight we're starting with the ones that hunt us, the actual malevolent ones, the ones who want to do us harm and eat us and, do very bad things. It's not just like passively out there like Loch Ness or Bigfoot. These are the ones. And we're starting off with everyone's favorite, especially among gun Twitter and mill Twitter, The Wendigo.
Yeah, so for everybody who likes to think we're the apex predator of our planet, these things would like a word. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. On land, allegedly we're the apex predator, but not always. So, for those of you who don't know, the story of the Wendigo is one of those rare cases where myth and anthropology kind of collide. They're so closely tied together that it becomes difficult to separate the monster from the warning. Yeah, in the northern forests where winters are long and famine is always a possibility, the Algonquin-speaking peoples told of a gaunt skeletal figure with an insatiable hunger for flesh and morality itself. A spirit that arrived when the most sacred of taboos were broken, cannibalism, basically. And its presence, the hunger was no longer a human state, but a contagious curse, stretching beyond the starving campsite and into the whole community. Early ethnographs recorded dozens of variations. Some describe a massive creature taller than the pines, with a heart of ice and eyes glowing like fire. And others tell of a human who, in the act of consuming another, becomes the Wendigo, doomed to hunt forever. It's the flexibility of this that um, gives the lore its power. It's not just a single monster, but it's a whole ethos wrapped around it, explaining how hunger could unravel both the body and the spirit. And in the oral traditions of the Algonquin, the Wendigo is not just outside the tent, it's inside you.
the call is coming from inside the tent. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, anthropologists have coined the phrase Wendigo psychosis in the 20th century to describe cases among Cree and Ojibwe communities where individuals became convinced they were turning into the monster. Symptoms included an obsessive fear of becoming a cannibal, coupled with violent urges to kill and eat others. Some of these cases ended in death, either by suicide to prevent transformation or by execution at the hands of the community. The fact that Western medicine tried to give the monster a diagnostic category shows just how much this really freaks some folks out, I would think.
Yeah, one of the most cited cases is that of Swift Runner. He was a Cree up in Alberta back in the late 1800s. Despite being about 20 miles away from the Hudson Bay Company provisions, he murdered and ate his family during a harsh winter. At the trial, he claimed to have been possessed by the Wendigo, and he was hung at Fort Saskatchewan. But I mean, the story has circulated for decades, and it's proof that the hunger spirit, while not a myth, but an ever-present risk, and especially in the Canadian, the Canadian government sees it as a crime, but as people saw it as the encounter with the predator that stalked his soul.
Well, I mean, if the family would have just put the lotion on the skin. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's...
Another recorded case involves Jack Fiddler, an Oji Cree shaman arrested in 1907. After he admitted to killing multiple individuals he claimed were transforming into Wendigos. To the outside world, these were murders. To his people, they were acts of defense against something worse. The collision between colonial law and indigenous cosmology shows how the Wendigo wasn't merely a fireside tale, it was integrated into the justice of survival itself for some of these people.
Yeah, modern psychology largely treats the Wendigo psychosis as it's a cultural bound syndrome. But even in that framing, it doesn't resolve the unease about it. And, unlike other psychoses, which tend to universal themes, this one's highly coupled to the environment. Snowbound forests, scarcity, the gnawing hunger that makes survival itself a moral trial. Whether it's literal or symbolic, the idea that starvation can turn us into monsters resonates across cultures, but the Wendigo names it and personalizes it.
So, going beyond anthropology, the creature continues to appear in modern reports. Hunters in Ontario and Minnesota tell of emaciated deer-like figures with elongated limbs glimpsed between the trees. Some accounts describe an unearthly stench like rotting meat, coupled with a palpable sense of dread. Skeptics suggest these are misidentifications of moose or bears in poor condition. Yet, the descriptions often carry features not seen in any animal, such as glowing eyes, unnatural speed, or the sense of being stalked for miles without a sound.
Yeah, another story comes from a trapper up near Lake Winnipeg in the 30s who claimed he saw a towering figure tearing the remains of a wolf that had killed. Excuse me. After the trapper fled and returned with others, the elongated tracks clawed his space further apart than a human stride. They were already filling with snow, and locals at the time interpreted the signs it was a Wendigo or a Wendig, as Vincent Charles was putting in chat. Underappreciated font. Yeah, these things don't merely compete with humans for food, but they punish them for greed too.
Yeah, contemporary cryptid forums actually still receive occasional reports. As recently as 2019, a video circulated online purporting to show a skeletal figure moving unnaturally fast across a frozen road in Quebec. While quickly dismissed as a hoax, the sheer viral spread of the clip demonstrated the Wendigo's lingering hold. Even hoaxes echo the hunger of the original myth, our need to see the predator confirmed.
Yeah, thematically, the Wendigo, it functions as a fear of endless appetite. In the Algonquin tales, no matter how much it eats, it just grows larger, ensuring it can never be full. And in this way, the monster transcends cannibalism to become a metaphor for greed and gluttony. Colonial accounts note how the elders warned of that unchecked desire for food, for land, possessions. Any of these things could invite the Wendigo. And so it's not only a winter predator, but it's also a cultural check against excess. Especially when you're talking about, pretty much agrarian tribes who were just sustenance farmers and sustenance hunters. They had exactly what they needed and not much more.
So compare this to famine folklore elsewhere in parts of Scandinavia. Hunger was personified by figures like Pesta, a hag carrying a broom who brought plague. In Ireland, starvation appeared as the Fear Gorta, a spirit of famine that roamed fields. Yet only in the northern Algonquin belt does the monster not merely represent hunger. It hunts you for indulging it. The Wendigo is unique in that it's both the punishment and the crime.
Yeah, that's taking both sides of that it is a really powerful story when you think of it like that.
Yeah, because you give in to your hunger, and then you basically are cursed with hunger forever, and then out stalking other people. Fun times. This is why long pig is verboten, kids. No long pig. No long pig.
Didn't much care for it.
Little stringy.
Yeah. There's also the ritual angle behind this too, is that some Algonquin shamans would conduct ceremonies to drive the Wendigo away, burning animal fat or making loud noises out in the woods. And these rituals were less about hunting the predator as much as they were restoring the balance. That it could be banished, or at least temporarily, suggests that it was seen as an invading force, not a permanent evil. It was one that would arrive when people lost harmony with their environment.
So, and this keeps going because guess what? It doesn't just involve the Algonquins. Now we're going to talk about some Catholics. The Catholic missionaries who entered these regions in the 17th century often equated the Wendigo with demonic possession. They found the concept convenient for their own cosmology, folding it into the Christian idea of sin. But the indigenous framing remained distinct. The Wendigo wasn't tempting you from outside. It was what you became when survival collapsed into selfishness. The inversion is what makes it so unsettling. The predator isn't another species. It is us at our worst and basically completely out of control.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. In pop culture and literature, the Wendigo often gets conflated with werewolves or other generic monsters, but the original context of it is tighter. It's a winter predator. It's specifically tied to famine. And unlike just shapeshifters, which can be resisted or transformed back, the Wendigo's condition is permanent. Once taken by its hunger, there's no return. And this kind of adds some finality to the taboo that it's not just wrong to eat human flesh, it's irreversible.
I mean, it kind of adds teeth to it. See what I did there? See what I
Yeah,
did?
nice. That was good. That's good.
So a
Gold
further
star from Rick.
So a further unsettling detail is the sound some reports say the Wendigo can create. It is said to mimic human voices, calling people by name in the forest to lure them. Others describe an unearthly shriek that precedes its appearance, a sound like ice crackling across a frozen lake. The sensory component makes the stories visceral. Hunger is silent, but the Wendigo is loud, making its presence undeniable in memory.
Yeah, modern psychologists, they might dismiss these as hallucinations born of starvation, but the consistency of the details of them across centuries and cultures, argues it's something deeper. Hunters and trappers separated by hundreds of miles describe the same gaunt skeletal stalker, the same voice in the trees. Excuse me. Even if it is psychological, so many minds invent the same predator.
Well, so this brings up an interesting thought because we're talking about folks that are separated by hundreds of thousands of miles. How many times have we played the telephone game in the same room, and by the time you start a story at one end of the room, it's completely different by the time it gets to the other? So the consistency across thousands of miles in and of itself lends credence to this whole thing in ways that I don't think modern science can explain.
No, and psychology always just likes to, boil everything down into its root essence, which is fine in this. But the thing is that externally, you have this isn't even something. It's like even among the Paiute, the mysterious Batwoman motif has different meanings in different regions, but the Wendigo has the same meaning across everywhere. The same sounds, the same visual appearance. Variations of the visual appearance, but it's still pretty cohesive.
Well, yeah. So the funny thing is, this is still on a symbolic level being used today. So the Wendigo is often used in modern times to critique consumerism, culture, and the consumer culture. Writers frame corporations as Wendigos devouring resources endlessly, always growing but never satisfied. This is a powerful echo of the original fear that unchecked appetite can consume the world. When the myth is still useful for explaining modern anxieties, it shows a rather strong durability, in my opinion, even if it has been hijacked by hippies.
Yeah, but for the communities that still tell the story, it isn't metaphorical. Elders continue to warn against traveling alone in the woods at night, especially in winter. Some warn that speaking the name aloud too often, like saying Beetlejuice 3 times, will draw its attention.
That's one.
Is that consecutively or do I anyway? In these retellings, the Wendigo remains, as alive as any bear or wolf. A predator you may meet if you push your luck.
So ultimately, what makes the the Wendigo compelling is that it doesn't just threaten the body, but also the soul. To fall victim to it is to become it, blurring the line between hunter and hunted. That paradox, a predator that turns its prey into the very predator that it was once prey to, is almost unique in global lore. It ensures the fear is self-renewing, like hunger itself.
Yeah, I guess the function of the Wendigo is protective. By embodying the consequences of cannibalism and greed, it reinforces those boundaries that kept the communities alive through brutal winters. It isn't just a boogeyman; it's a survival tool. It's encoded in the story. but that doesn't make it any less terrifying, if anything more so, because the idea that your culture had to invent a monster to remind you not to eat your family says something about just how close to the edge of survival you're on that razor's edge.
Yeah. So wait.
Yeah, you did. Somebody's asking if you heard Paiute. Yeah, because I'm actually in the Southwest and I get around a bit. So
you get around a bit, not just
I get around. And it's like somebody say they open up a whole bunch of Circle K's out here in Florida, and I haven't seen Ordy at once. Well, I'm on a West Coast tour right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, believe it or not, my friend, we've hit the bottom of the hour already. And we're officially through the first segment. So we do have, as long as my internet behaves, we do have a fresh song from our very own Alien. And this one is entitled They Hunt Us. So let's try to give this a listen, and hopefully it holds out.
This one's good.
And of course, it's not gonna.
Excuse me while I do shadow puppets. And this one's a bird.
Well, see, sometimes you're telling me you can still hear it, so I wasn't sure if you were still hearing it or not. So let me try something. Hang on.
Yeah, I heard nothing right now. Except for the fans on my PC and the slurping of my tea.
Yeah. All right. that one's like an old one. That's weird.
Yeah, there are lots of Paiute in Utah, Southern Nevada, Central Nevada, Eastern California.
All right, let's try this again. And then if this doesn't work, I'll just go reset the modem real quick while we're on break. There we go.
Shadows crawl beneath the pines. Eyes like embers cut through time. Breath of hunger chills the skin. Something ancient waits within. They're out there watching, teeth in the dark, they're stalking.
Oops, I came back a little too early. I thought it was done. Anyway, welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if we're gonna play devil music, this would be the month to do it. Just,
Yep.
anyway, so how was your break, Amish?
It was good. I refilled my tea and darted my lung and, did ordy things. How about you? How was your break?
Nice. I just kind of sat here and worked the chat a little bit and spread out some more links so we could see if we can keep growing these numbers because we're doing really good tonight.
Yeah.
I want to see how far we can go.
Yeah. Another banger from Jeff. By the way, he has an album dropping on Amazon on Monday.
I keep
His
forgetting
first.
about that. I need to make sure I promo that this week.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I can't believe he's actually putting out an album.
I know. It's great. I mean, for those of you who are just joining us or haven't joined us much, Jeff has been doing a lot of music for Callan. He does it for his shows. He does it for our show. He's done some theme songs. It's just, yeah. So he's just cranking them out, and they're bangers. The one for next week I really liked. It gave me an awkward boner.
I mean, if you're calling it an awkward boner, oh boy.
Yeah. So, cryptids. The lore is deep.
Yes. And this one is from a certain someone who's in the chat's neck of the woods. So
Aggie's favorite.
yes. Oh, so when Puerto Rico first heard whispers of the chupacabra in the 1990s, it was not just another cryptid sighting. It was an epidemic of dead livestock. Blood drained through puncture wounds, spread across dozens of towns. Farmers awoke to find goats, chickens, and rabbits lifeless in their pens, their carcasses oddly unmolested except for neat perforations. This pattern, a surgical predator leaving behind corpses rather than consuming them, electrified the imagination. The name itself, translating to goat sucker, became shorthand for something unnatural, stalking all livestock in the night. Wow.
Yeah, the earliest descriptions from Puerto Rico painted the creature as reptilian, standing about 3 or 4 feet tall, with spines running down its back and large red eyes. Witnesses like Madeline Tolentino of Carvonas described it as hopping like a kangaroo, leaving behind strange 3-toed prints. God, I remember so much of this from Art Bell. When this hit, it was all over Art Bell, especially all the artist renditions. Anyway, police reports cataloged over 150 attacks in 1995 alone, forcing the authorities to investigate. And while skeptics suggested feral dogs or even escaped monkeys, the uniform puncture marks on the livestock didn't fit those predators' behaviors. And the weirdness of the wounds themselves ensured that the legend spread faster than any official explanation. I just don't get feral monkeys and dogs are going to just rip something apart. They're not going to get nice, neat puncture wounds.
Not to mention, I don't know unless there's vampire monkeys I've never heard of before. I gotta know,
Aggie, is there a big escaped monkey problem in Puerto Rico that I just haven't heard about?
I mean, especially vampiric monkeys.
Yeah, vampiric ones.
Because that's about the only way that story would even potentially make sense. Well, there's that one species of monkey we have only in Puerto Rico that likes to drain the blood of its prey. No.
Yeah, you'd think that it would have had a name by now. Yeah, by the time the phenomenon reached Texas and Mexico, the creature's description had changed. Ranchers began reporting a hairless, mange-ridden canid, something like a coyote or wolf, emaciated but vicious, attacking their goats and chickens. The carcasses of these animals were sometimes captured or shot, and DNA tests later showed that they were coyotes with severe mange. But the shift didn't kill the legend. And instead, it split the chupacabra into 2 forms: the reptilian kangaroo of Puerto Rico and the hairless coyote of the borderlands. Both stalked livestock but each embodied a different local fear.
So that livestock killer motif isn't unique to the Americas, though, because in 1975, farmers in Puerto Rico had already lived through another wave known as El Vampiro de Mocha. Chickens and cows were found with their blood drained, spurring vampire. I'm telling you, there are vampiric monkeys. I'm telling you. So, vampire rumors years before the official chupacabra in Tanzania, the Popobawa, a bat-winged entity, terrorized communities in the 1990s, attacking families at night and leaving both animals and humans traumatized. Though details varied, the shared through line is clear. When rural people lose their animals mysteriously, they turn to the language of predators beyond biology. I'm telling you, there are vampiric monkeys.
Yeah, I mean, Kentucky has its own in the form of the goat man. It's a half human, half goat creature said to haunt bridges and tunnels. The most famous version is the Pope Lick monster near Louisville. It has reportedly lured dozens to their deaths on a train trestle. But the goat man legend is older and wider, with sightings reported around Maryland's Beltsville, the agricultural research center there, and various rural stretches of Texas. I mean, the goat man's everywhere. He gets around.
Yeah, we talked about the goat man a little bit last night because that actually came up in Aggie's neck of the woods. So I was making sure I had to make sure she slept with the lights on last night. So
as witnesses describe it as a towering figure with the head of a goat wielding an axe or sometimes mimicking human voices to lure victims. The livestock killer angle is implicit here. The goat man is often spotted near farmsteads, embodying the predatory presence that threatens both animals and those who guard them.
So if the chupacabra embodies a medicalized predator, surgical punctures, drained blood, the goat man channels a mythic terror, combining elements of Pan, satyrs, and diabolical imagery. His habitats under bridges along dark rural roads double as liminal spaces where accidents and dangers already abound. The cryptid thus enforces boundaries. Don't linger near abandoned tunnels. Don't cross train trestles. Don't stray from the safe path. In this way, he serves the same function as the Wendigo did in the north, but in a rural southern register.
One of the earliest Kentucky Goatman reports dates back to the 50s when a Louisville family described a hairy horned creature attacking their car. The details are parallel, reports in Maryland where teenagers dared each other to visit Crybaby Ridge and confront the goat man said to haunt the woods there. The region, each region emphasizes different traits of the goat man, sometimes axe wielding, sometimes bestial screams, sometimes human voices. But the central motif is always predation. He's not a guardian, he's not a ghost, he's a stalker, and that it ends badly for anybody who crosses his path.
So livestock as targets tell us something about the psychology of these cryptids. For rural families, goats, sheep, and chickens weren't just animals. They were survival, wealth, and stability. To wake up to find them slaughtered without clear cause meant facing starvation or poverty. The predator then became a narrative placeholder for vulnerability. Wolves and coyotes may explain some deaths, but when the details defy those explanations, the community invents something worse. A supernatural killer fills the gap. But did they really invent it, though? I don't. Because I don't.
Skeptics. Back in '95, skeptics dismissed the chupacabra as hysteria fueled by the movie Species. Because it was released at the same time, and the alien bore a resemblance to Tolentino's description of it. But this explanation overlooks the fact that the livestock killings were reported before the film ever released in Puerto Rico. More importantly, explaining it away, one witness doesn't explain the dozens of identical reports from multiple towns across the country. The folkloric energy here doesn't just arise from someone who saw a movie. It taps into a deeper pre-existing fear of nocturnal livestock predation.
By the way, I call shenanigans because not one person said this thing was hot.
Right.
I remember Species. I'm just
yes. Natasha Hentrich, it is not.
So the Texas version offers its own anomalies. Ranchers documented carcasses of animals not consumed, only mutilated, which runs counter to the behavior of starving coyotes. In some cases, carcasses reportedly showed signs of blood loss without spillage, echoing the vampiric imagery discussed earlier. Even if mange ridden coyotes account for some sightings, the anomalous reports maintain the legend's life, as with the Wendigo. Official explanations serve as inoculations, but they never truly close the case because it doesn't always fit.
And the vampiric livestock predator, it there's global parallels to it. In Chile, you have the puchin, which is a flying vampiric snake that haunts farmsteads in Patagonia. In rural Eastern Europe, you have all the vampire lore that's centered not just on humans, but on cattle and sheep mysteriously drained of life. Predators target the economic backbone of the community and their livelihood, the livestock. This generates legends that survive centuries. The chupacabra is just the latest iteration of it, shaped by modern anxieties and genetic experiments, invasive species, and disease.
I mean, this is the chupacabra is really just covering for the vampiric monkey industrial complex.
Big vampire monkey in Puerto Rico is.
So one striking anecdote comes from, looks like Venus, Puerto Rico. Sorry, Aggie. In August 1995, when Mayor Jose Quimo Soto organized armed patrols to hunt the chupacabra after repeated killings, that a municipal leader treated the creature seriously enough to deploy hunters says much about the panic of the day. The predator was not just folkloric, but civic, drawing real-world action. Compare this to the Goat Man trestle deaths in Louisville, where police now post warnings and erect fencing. Legends enforce boundaries, sometimes with more effect than law enforcement alone.
Canabanas, she says.
Yeah, I know.
Question. Yeah. Rural predators, they serve a dual purpose. They explain unexplainable livestock losses, but they also control behavior. Don't let your children roam out at night. Don't cross into dangerous spaces. Don't leave animals unattended. The goat man, the chupacabra, the vampiric boogeyman of Africa and South America all function as predators, not just of flesh, but of freedom and of the mind. They circumscribe the night with rules.
Yeah, kind of like one of the urban legends I was telling Aggie about last night, because I had a habit of pulling away from my mom in parking lots. So she pointed to one of the tar spots and says, "You know what that is? That's what's left of a kid who kept pulling away from his mom." And I was 4. I was traumatized for like a month.
At least. But the legends persist, and they still remain unsatisfied. Farmers still lose animals in ways that don't line up with predation. Travelers still hear screams under bridges and glimpse horned figures along rural roads. The official explanations manage, but misidentify hysteria. They're neat and clean and packaged, but they don't. They leave the anomalies untouched. That's the gap where the predator lives.
So, in a broader cryptid landscape, these goat suckers and goat men are not just curiosities. They are community stress tests embodying rural anxiety at its rawest. They remind us that survival is fragile. Livestock are lifelines, and that predators, whether natural or supernatural, always hunt at the margins. And so, when night falls in Canovanas or along a Kentucky trestle, the advice is the same. Stay inside, lock the pins, and don't listen if something outside calls your name. This means you, Amish. Because whether it's a bloodsucker or a horned man with an axe, the predators of rural lore do not just want your goats, they want you to believe they're still out there waiting.
Well, because they are.
Of course.
This reminds me. Okay. So I remember telling Mickey Blowtorch the story once. I was coming back from Reno. It was late at night, and I pulled over in this canyon to take a leak. And everything about the area screamed, "Get the fuck out." I mean, it was just, I mean, I'm just sitting there and, I can hear the music coming from the car. And then all of a sudden, just this cold grip comes across me, is that you have no business being here, human. You need to leave now. And I mean, this is an area that's filled with campgrounds along the Walker River and everything. And it's just, yeah. So there are things that I'm convinced there are things that go bump in the night.
Oh,
especially when you have an area as vast as the Sierras, and I mean, they still haven't found Fremont's Cannon out there, and everybody's been looking at it. You got the John Muir Trail, but still, and the whole Ansel Adams Wilderness, it is still creepy as fuck out there.
I mean,
even along a busy highway.
I mean, seriously though, I mean, it's not the topic we're talking about tonight, but I've talked about the times with you that like weird things have happened to me. So I do believe that there are things that go bump in the night. I mean, I still can't explain to you how it was that in the middle of a swimming pool, I got turned upside down and nearly drowned with nobody around me. That actually happened, and it terrified me. Then there was the time I was trying to get into my house because I stayed out a little bit too late, and I could feel the hair on the back of my neck standing up like something was chasing me. That, that part may have been imaginary, but nearly drowning in a pool was not. I mean, I do firmly believe there are things in this world that we are not meant to understand. And I think in some cases, some of this stuff may serve as warnings, kind of like my mom telling me when I was 4, that little tar spot you're looking at, that used to be a kid, but still, again, talking about the things we've talked about so far in this hour, there are too many consistencies across thousands of miles in times when we didn't have instant communication like we have today. So,
yeah. Sorry, I just creeped myself out remembering that thing up and coming back at night.
It's like, you're going to be okay? You all right?
The thing is, I know this area so well. I've camped there. But it's the first time, I've ever been in that area that I was just, it was like, it's like in the horror movies. Get out. Okay, I'm gone. See ya.
Steven in the
Didn't
chat.
even shake twice.
Steven in the chat. I've dated blondes. I believe in monsters.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
We're at the top of the hour again.
Yes, sir, we are. Oh. All right, so
co-eds, hideous beasts that prey on carbon-based life forms. There's some truth to that.
There's a lot of truth there.
That's why I like Southern Utah. The nursing school at St. George. I was in the hospital at St. George, and a whole bunch of nursing students came through, and good times.
Nice.
Good times. You're not often happy to be in a hospital, but in this case, I was.
Yeah, it depends. It kind of depends.
Calling, hey, I'm going to come up and visit. You don't want to do that. I'm feeling like shit.
Yeah, don't waste the trip.
I'm an ass. I was an ass.
Yeah, sometimes they've earned it, though. Not always, but sometimes they've earned it, in my opinion.
Yeah. So break again. My tea is. I'm going through tea pretty quick tonight.
Yep, we've about hit that point, and I need to pour some more into my glass too. So we're going to go ahead and take our break for this segment, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back here in just a couple minutes with hour 2 of our foray into the weird, the unusual, the unexplainable, usually every 2 weeks here on KLR Radio. But for this month, it will be on every Saturday night and even the first Saturday in November. So that we can bring you as much of the fun as possible. But we're going to take a break. My name's Rick. He's Amish. You're listening to us on KLR Radio. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
To be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
Thanks, JJ.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Green man in the desert night, Bigfoot roaming out of sight. Government shadows, secrets deep, conspiracies unfold while we sleep. Strange encounters unexplained, truth is out that really shame. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling history, stories untold. Area 51, a whispered name. UFO sightings, a haunting flame. Loch Ness monster, a watery myth. Cryptozoology, a curious gift. Strange encounters unexplained. Truth is out there, bravely changed. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling mystery, stories untold. Skeptics doubt, believers yearn for answers hidden yet to learn. In the twilight zone where logic ends, the search continues with our hands. Strange encounters unexplained. Truth is out there, bravely chained. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling mystery, stories untold. Truth is out there. Truth is out there.
And welcome back into hour 2 of Juxtaposition, ladies and gentlemen. Normally, our every 2-week foray into the weird, the unusual, the unexplainable. But in October, we do things a bit differently. Welcome to Juxtober, ladies and gentlemen. We're every Saturday in October, and usually the first, either the last week in September, depending on calendar following, or the first week in November. We usually extend it because 4 episodes just usually isn't enough for the deep dives we do during Juxtober. And for this month, we are discussing cryptids. We're about halfway through the episode so far. Hope you guys are enjoying everything that we've discussed so far. I want to give a quick shout out to everybody hanging out in the chat. Again, I am Rick. He is the Amish one. And if you haven't told him yet, tell him belated happy birthday because it's still his birthday week for a few more hours.
It is my birth week. So, I know I've said how much I love our theme song. I think it's the best one that Jeff has done of all the music. But so those of you who have been following KLRN for a long time, I want you to understand my full meaning when I say this. It gets me to spin my chair.
Right. It's chair spinning. MD, that would be a new addition because of This Week in Politics. No, not really.
Yeah. How was your break?
I didn't get a chance to get up and get any tea because I didn't have a long enough break set, but I did grab a cough drop, so I'll be able to get through the next little bit without a problem. So
I got up to get more tea and discovered I've got a bloody nose, so that's fun. It is definitely turning to winter here.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Fuck.
telling you, it's the curses, man. It's the curses.
No, in this case, it's many years of doing cocaine.
I like it. Oh, wait, sorry.
Yes.
That has to be one of my all-time favorite Chevy Chase scenes ever.
Yeah, it's a great scene. Terrible movie, but a fun scene. It's not terrible. It's fun.
I mean, it's not any dumber than some of the. I mean, it's just as campy and weird as some of the other ones that were being put out at the time. I don't know. It took me forever to get into those movies. I didn't used to find them funny. Now I go back and I watch them. I'm like, I understand what I was missing before.
Now I like some pretty obscure shit, and I like campy and stupid as much as the next guy. The one Chevy Chase film I never understood. There's nothing in common with Demi Moore and Dan Aykroyd. I don't get that movie.
I don't think I've ever.
John Candy's in it too.
I don't think I've ever seen it, so I probably
it's
dude. You're telling me that Demi's in it, Aykroyd's in it, he's in it, and John Candy's in it, and it still sucks. That's not a good thing.
I just don't. I don't know. I know a lot of people love that movie. I just haven't figured out why yet. And when it came out, I was working in video stores, and I had to watch it at least once a week. So it's not like I'm tired of it, and it's not like I haven't given it a chance. It's just I don't get it. Anyway.
All right. Well, your cultural show's like 2 weeks from Thursday, so let's get back to each one.
We'll talk about it on the Vincent Charles Project this weekend. But we're doing Sneakers, the movie Sneakers, as our kind of ode to Robert Redford, and
nice. That actually is a good movie. That's a good one. But anyway,
so going beyond chupacabras and Wendigos, there's a lot of regional cryptids that hunt. It's like not every predator is dark and easily categorized as those. Especially in rural stretches. They produce their own catalog of stranger and more localized beings that don't always fit into monster archetypes. These are the types of these are the cryptids that haunt train trestles like the Goat Man and drainage ditches and wooded creeks. They're not quite ghosts, they're not quite animals, but they're always predatory. And they're liminal beasts, the entities tied not only to the wilderness but to the very edges of human civilization. As it fades into shadow.
So the most famous of these modern predators is the Dogman. I think if memory serves, we've talked about this one before.
Yeah, when we did a cryptids once years ago where we were talking about the Dogman.
So reports stretch all the way back to 1887 in Wexford County, Michigan, when 2 lumberjacks claimed to see a creature with a man's body and a dog's head stalking through the pines. Since then, accounts have appeared in Burst, Michigan in the 1960s, Wisconsin's Beast of Bray Road in the 1990s, and scattered reports as far south as Texas. What is it? Aggie, you need to move. Well, I don't know. Yeah. Just saying. I don't think Texas is safe anymore. Witnesses consistently describe a 7-foot tall bipedal creature with canine features, often with glowing eyes and a snarling mouth. Unlike werewolves, which are tied to lunar cycles and transformation lore, the dogman is framed strictly as a predator, not cursed humans, but something that has always existed in the margins.
Yeah, in 1987, one case was recorded by radio DJ Steve Cook. He reignited the legend. Cook released a novelty song called "The Legend," about the dogman, only to receive dozens of calls from listeners who swore the monster was real. And among them was a man who claimed he had been camping near Luther, Michigan, when a creature with canine features stood upright and watched his tent for hours. The witness never claimed it was supernatural, only that it was predatory, patient, and silent. The dog man, unlike Sasquatch, isn't indifferent. It's stalking you.
So much for man's best friend.
Right.
So there's another one, and this one is, I guess, in Ohio. The Loveland Frog of Ohio operates in a stranger register. It was first reported in 1955 by a businessman who saw 3 humanoid frog-like creatures under a bridge. It later gained notoriety when 2 police officers in 1972 reported spotting a 3 to 4 foot amphibian-like humanoid near the Little Miami River. Officer Mark Matthews. Now, I just want to point out, this is a police officer who went on record as far enough that we know his name. Later attempted to dismiss the sighting as an iguana missing its tail, but that oddity stuck. The predator angle here is subtle. The frogman isn't reported draining goats or tearing at livestock, but it embodies the unsettling question. What else lurks along the creek banks when you leave town behind? Even if it doesn't attack, it claims the liminal space as its own, a trespasser's hazard. Kind of like, remember that old show Tales from the Dark Side? Kind of like the anthology. Yeah. Remember, the line where it was always like, this is the world where the daylight ends and the dark begins. Yeah, yeah, I kind of feeling that vibe with the froggy things. Just saying.
Yeah, we covered the froggy things when we did cryptids before too. But yeah, those are just. See, now that's just even more unnatural because it's everything that we've talked about is in one aspect, or aside from like the Puerto Rican chupacabras, is mammalian in some form or another. When you're getting into frogs, that takes the cute little frog and makes it creepy as fuck. As we touched on the Pope like monster a little bit, back when we were talking about the goat man, and that one that kind of blurs the line between goat sucker and liminal beast. It's still carrying the goat like features, but it's haunting a train trestle over Pope Lick Creek. But it has been linked to numerous deaths of people turned into the tracks who were lured into the tracks and struck by trains. Witnesses describe either a horned man beast or a figure that mimics human voices calling out onto the trestle. And unlike the chupacabra or the dog man, it kills not by direct attack, but by deception. Its predation is psychological. Coaxing people into a lethal space. In fact, the modern authorities, we talked about it, have fenced off the area and posted warnings, acknowledges that the legend has teeth, whether it's supernatural or not.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when you've got police officers making statements about it and people are, starting to put up fences and post signs, it doesn't really matter how supernatural you think it is, because it's definitely made its way into the civic spaces. In Illinois, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, and the thing with that too is that everybody over the age of 15 knows that when you put up a fence and say warning, you're just attracting the kids.
right? So kind of makes you wonder, huh? Maybe they're trying to feed the monster.
You know, Sue Sponti makes a good point. Is that he spent 21 years of his career in Cincy and lived in Loveland. He never heard that story, which makes it sound more true because nobody talks about it.
Dun, dun, dun. All right. So in Illinois, 1973, my birth year, brought the bizarre case of the infield horror. Henry McDaniel reported seeing a gray, three-legged creature with glowing red eyes and short, stubby arms. Even though this was my birth year, I promise it wasn't me. It scratched at his door and later reappeared near railroad tracks, bounding away at incredible speed. Local police found unusual tracks with four-toed impressions, unlike any known animal. Other witnesses, again, we're talking about police reports here. Other witnesses backed his account, describing the same red-eye predator. Though explanations ranged from escaped kangaroos to mass hysteria, the Einfeld horror's unique anatomy defied any categorization. It didn't need to fit a mythic archetype. Its sheer strangeness was enough to cement it as a predator in the local imagination.
So my question is, where are all these escaped animals?
Right?
I mean, okay, I get it's the 70s, or the 90s in Puerto Rico, whatever. But still, it's like nobody reports a missing kangaroo.
You would think. But I mean, to be fair, the 90s in Puerto Rico were about like the 70s in the States. So
you're going to get it. You're going to get it from your co-host.
That's kind of what I'm aiming for. I'm trying to see if she's still paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah, the through line with all these stories, though, is that these things don't appear in open plains or bustling cities. They wait in the thresholds, the bridges, the tunnels, the trestles, creek beds, forest edge. Anthropologists often note that liminal spaces and folklore is where dangers congregate. It's the crossroads that attracts the demons in the European tales. The American backroads and train tracks, they generate their own cryptid predators because they're just they're close enough to be accessible, but far enough away where there's no help. The function of them is clear, is to warn people, especially children and teenagers, stay away from the dangerous areas or real accidents happen. But the predators themselves, while they become cautionary tales, there's too many reports for it to just be pure invention.
I mean, it's almost like they become the predators themselves actually become not just a cautionary tale, but actually even more than that because of the correlations and reports. Because there's just, like I said, there's just too many details. We've been talking about that all night. There's just, with hundreds of thousands of miles across separating these things, there's just correlations everywhere, which has always been astounding to me. But going a little further into this, there's one Loveland frog witness, Officer Matthews, insisted that his sighting was no prank or hoax, though he downplayed its strangeness later. Similarly, Pope Lake locals have described hearing screams or seeing a horned silhouette, even when no trains were near. These are not just urban legends told after the fact. They're tied to active, lived experiences. The predator motif is less about physical attack and more about claiming ownership of a space where humans should not tread.
Well, and that's the thing, is that it's like I was saying, is they're just remote enough that they've pissed on their trees there, so that's their environment, and you just happen to stumble into it. It's like the dogman, provides the clearest predator behavior in the cluster. Multiple hunters have claimed it stalked them at night, watching from tree lines, growling low but never rushing to attack. The effect is psychological predation. And it's establishing dominance. It's instilling fear. It's reminding humans that you are not the apex predator in every forest. One case with the dogman in 1993, a woman reported what's been known as the Beast of Bray Road, crouched on the side of the road, tearing into a roadkill with its hands. And when she slowed the car, the creature repeatedly turned, stood upright, and advanced, forcing her to flee. These aren't the behaviors of, misunderstood animals. They're the behaviors of something that has an effect on they're predators.
Yeah, all I know is if I was in a car and something like that started advancing on me, speed bump. Just saying. Ka-chunk-chunk.
Yeah, and the Enfield horror, it fits less neatly into this behavior, scratching on doors and approaching homes, and bounding towards witnesses positions, but it's still not a passive entity. It's an aggressor. In predatory folklore, unexpectability is its own weapon. A beast that can't be explained or categorized is more terrifying than a wolf or a bear. Locals in Enfield, they locked their doors for weeks after McDaniel's report. And armed posses patrolling the streets, testifying that something real was provoking the fear.
Dude, can you imagine living? I mean, I know we're seeing it politically in places like Portland and stuff now, but I can't imagine just something freaking you out at such a visceral level that you've got people just armed posses going through the streets trying to look for the thing. That's just crazy to me. But this goes even further because there are cross-cultural parallels that strengthen the liminal predator theme. And in Japanese folklore, the kappa lurks in rivers, waiting to drown unwary children. In Celtic tales, the puka haunts rural paths, shifting shapes to confuse travelers. Both serve the same role as the Loveland frog or the Pope-like monster. Deterrence embodied in creature form. When civilization ends and danger begins, the human mind populates the gap with predators.
Yeah, the difference in American lore is the persistence of eyewitness testimony. These aren't just stories told by the elders, but they're police reports, news articles, and investigations documented within living memory. Liminal beasts are not fading myths, but living legends, continually renewed by new sightings. Each one adds another layer to the predator archetype, ensuring that the stories stay sharp. It's kind of like an It, where it comes around every 20 years.
Yeah, that. I read that book way too young. That's all I'm going to say about that. I enjoyed it at the time, but I read it way too young. That was a book that scared me. The movies, not so much, and the miniseries, not really either. But the book, yeah, it got me. So in some, these regional predators serve as sentinels at civilization's edge. The Dogman stalks the forest. The Loveland frog claims the riverside. The Pope-like monster rules the trestles. And the Enfield horror haunts the fields. Their details vary widely: canine, amphibian, goatman, three-legged horror, but their function converges. They turn dangerous spaces into forbidden zones. By doing so, they remain relevant, feeding both fear as well as fascination.
While skeptics call each of these, a hoax and hysteria and misidentification, the legends remained effective. Teenagers still dare each other to visit, Popelik Creek. Hunters still swap Dogman stories in northern Michigan. Local papers still dust off the Enfield horror every few years. And, it's like I was saying, they come around every 20 years. It seems like, the predators are not gone because they were never about proof. They were always about the shadow where the rules fail. And, they're just waiting there, lingering, to remind you that you don't want to be there.
Yeah, and it's just again, to me, the lingeringness of these things, the I guess the word I'm kind of not really the word I'm looking for, but one that conveys nearly the same thing. The steadfastness of these stories. That just because over time they don't ever really fade away. And it's weird because like the Mothman story, which is said to recirculate every 25, 30 years or so. And it's just kind of the same thing. These things, they go away for a time and they come back. And then when they come back, even though we're now talking about modern times, I mean, there's some of these things that we've talked about tonight that were seen as recently as 2019. You wouldn't imagine that in the 21st century, with all the technology that we have, people would still be seeing things or being told about things that would make the hair on the back of their neck stand up. But here we are.
and every town has one. They have that creepy house. They have that, that old crone down the street. They have that abandoned building that, it's always, some urban legend about it. Whether it is a cryptid or a ghost or a demon, every town has one. Yeah, I mean, probably not so much in the big cities, but I know you're in a small town, and I'm in a small town, and I grew up in a small town, and they all have they all have that no go zone, you know,
Well, I mean,
especially for the kids, and that lingers. That's lifelong trauma. Is even when you drive past it as an adult, you remember the fear as a kid. You still don't like, hey, you know what? I'm a grown man with a gun. Let me go check it out now.
well, yeah, I mean, for me, I didn't grow up in I mean, it was a smaller town, but not really a small town. I grew up in a suburb of Oklahoma City, but we still had that. Like, and I've talked about it before. There was big empty fields out in front of my neighborhood, and there was an old folks home there that for the longest time all the kids in the neighborhood were convinced was a mental asylum, and we used to dare each other to see how close we could get to it before, because there was an old urban legend for as long as I've lived there about a guy who was housed in there that was a werewolf. And it was always this thing, especially in the month of October. I'll give you $5 if you can just get as close to the back of the old folks' home as you can through the field before you freak out. And it was just the thing that we did all the time. And then there was this road in our neighborhood called Treat Drive, and the urban legend in that area was that the lady that lived on the corner of I think it was Treat and Brown was a witch. And that was the street that almost nobody went down for Halloween because of that. They were afraid they were gonna get eaten by the witch. So I mean, but these things, they still persist. I mean, the last time I was in that neighborhood, there were kids still talking about some of that stuff. I mean, the old folks home one doesn't really persist anymore, but the crazy lady in the house on the corner, that story's still there. I mean, and we're talking about, I mean, granted, I'm 52 at this point, so we're talking about I moved into that house when I was 3. So that's how long. I mean, and I'm sure some of those stories were probably around before I ever even moved in. So it's just weird how often those things just continue. And again, you would think in the 21st century things like that would start waning. If anything, it seems like they're picking up speed again.
Well, yeah, they're fueled by the internet. They're fueled by Reddit, and it's. Hey, really quick, Al, are you having a math stroke?
Why? What's he doing?
Well, you said train, and then all of a sudden, you typing a whole bunch of pluses and minuses and numbers. So, just checking on you, Al. If you are having a math stroke, the math is for Sundays.
I was gonna say, I mean, we're getting close to Sunday on East Coast time, but we're not there yet. So I hope he's all right. Maybe he was trying to do something else and forgot he was punching on his computer. Small town.
Yeah. I was disappointed when I went back to the town I grew up in. The abandoned house and this place was weird. It was just filled with the floor it was just weird. I mean, the rooms in it were too small for like even a bed. It was like an office, but not really. And the whole place was just newspapers everywhere. It was just creepy. And what made it creepiest was it was pink and green. So, and it was concrete.
The house was pink and green?
Yeah, the house was pink and green. And okay, small town. Mellencamp appears now. It's funny that you just said that, because then that was pink houses. But anyway, yeah, it was a pink and green house. There was the lower floor just had newspapers all over the ground, and then upstairs was just this giant room. That's all it was. So I mean, we used to go up there and drink, and for some reason, setting masking tape on fire was the thing to do in the house. I don't know why.
Why not?
But, yeah, it was something to do. But yeah, it was just creepy, and we'd always party there after school. But as soon as it got dark, we beat the fuck out of there. So, but yeah, it's gone. There's condos there now. Fuck.
Damn condos. Damn condos.
So, I got to deal with this bloody nose. Can we get another break?
Yeah, I was about to do that anyway. Why don't you go do what you got to do, and I'll just roll the song again. I got to reload it because my computer was being dumb. So we'll be right back, folks. Stay tuned. This is a new one from Jeff. If you missed it the first time, we're repeating it now. Small town, small town, small town. I still have not seen John Cougar Mellencamp. I have him in my head now, thanks to Jeff, but I still haven't seen him.
Shadows crawl beneath the pines. Eyes like embers cut through time. Breath of hunger chills the skin. Something ancient waits within. They're out there watching, teeth in the dark, they're stalking. Run if you can, pray if you must. Predators come and they hunt us. Claws on pavement, silence breaks. Echoed footsteps no one makes. Blood in whispers, fear in bone. You are meat, you walk alone. They're out there watching, teeth in the dark, they're stalking. Run if you can, pray if you must. Predators come and they hunt us. Hunt us. Hunt us. Hunt us. In the night,
And welcome back in. I think Amish is back. I think.
Yes, I am. Sorry, I forgot to type in chat.
I was like, I'm starting to worry. I was like, I hope he didn't pass out.
No. Handled.
Fun times.
Yeah. So, you know what this topic has got me thinking about, especially, tonight's version of it. And excuse me, if you're listening and you're like going, well, you didn't cover the Mothman, or you didn't cover this. We've got a whole month. We've categorized these all into different types of classifications of cryptids. So if you didn't hear it tonight, your favorite one's probably coming soon. Yeah. Thanks, MD. I got a shine down from it too. Little Rob Zombie shine down vibe.
Yeah, I had to turn on my camera in it for a second just to prove I was headbanging. So, oh, fun times.
You know what I was doing is that scene in Ferris Bueller's Day Off during the Dunkashane thing song when there's that group on the steps of a courthouse or a library or whatever, and they're all dancing and synchronized dancing to it, and then they do that stomp thing in a circle.
Yeah,
I was doing that.
Nice.
So you know what this topic got me thinking of is something we haven't covered on this, and I checked, and it's still happening to this day.
What's that?
Cattle mutilations. Remember how big that was in the 70s and 80s?
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, apparently there was reports as recently as 2023 in Texas.
Well, we know why.
Texas.
There's one in chat. Damn alien.
I thought you learned everything you could from cattle mutilations and anal probing.
You could never learn. You can never learn enough from cattle mutilations and anal probing. Just ask Jeff.
Well, maybe. So, yeah, I do love this topic. I'm glad we picked it for this month because we've done a couple cryptid shows, but not since Ron.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Now it was one of his favorite topics, that and shadow people. So, but yeah, we haven't done this one. I think the last one we did with this was with Bumpstock Ken when we were talking Bigfoot.
Yeah, that was fairly recent. So,
well, recent for the show, but that wasn't long after they started doing FPF.
Yep, and it's been a little over a year at this point since they started doing that. So,
yeah, so.
But that was more like the Bigfoot cryptids, though. So this is just kind of a smorgasbord of cryptids all month. So
there are so many of them. I know we focused on the United States and Puerto Rico, which, for those of you who forget, it's a territory.
Somebody should tell that to Bad Bunny. Oh wait, sorry.
You're right. Yeah, but when people speak of them, the European case that cowers above all of them in the Americas is the beast of Goudan, and between 1764 and 1767 in the rugged Auvergne region of France, more than 100 people, mostly women and children, were killed by what witnesses described as a massive wolf-like creature. The reports claimed that the beast was impervious to bullets, moved with an unnatural speed, and showed no fear of human settlements. The royal court became involved, dispatching professional hunters and even the king's own guards. And in the end, the wolf presented as a culprit. In the end, a wolf was presented as the culprit, but the body count, the repeated failures to kill it, and the uncanny details left behind it burned into European memory as the predator that seemed less animal and more monstrous.
So in making the wolf side of this a little less believable, so is the fact that the beast attacks weren't random either. Many victims were found with throats torn out, but bodies otherwise untouched, fueling speculation that the killings were ritualistic rather than predatory. Some theorized a trained beast unleashed by criminals or a nobleman's exotic pet escaped into the wild. Yet to locals, the predator became mythologized as a scourge, divine punishment, or something beyond natural explanation. The fact that newspapers of the time treated it as both news and legend ensured the beast became Europe's template for cryptid predators.
And these things happen across the globe. Even real animals have crossed into the threshold of monsterhood, where their hunting became too effective. In 1898, during the construction of the Kenya-Uganda Railway, two lions in Savo killed and ate dozens of workers in the span of 9 months. The lions repeatedly dragged men from their tents at night, leaving behind only blood-stained ground. Colonel John Peterson, who eventually shot them, claimed they had killed 135 men. Obviously that number was reduced in time, but even by modern analysis, the lions remain, confirmed that they had it was confirmed that they had consumed human flesh. And what elevated these lions into legend was not just their appetite, but their tactics. They were hunting men as if they were herd animals. And to the terrified workers, they weren't lions, but they were demons.
It's funny because as the story went on, like skeptics later reduced that number, as you were talking about a second ago. I'm wondering if maybe the lions became the scapegoat for the dude that owned the lions to go on a killing spree. That's my thought, anyway. But that's just because I'm a little weird like that. So the Sundarbans Grove swamps of India and Bangladesh tell a similar story. For centuries, Bengal tigers there have hunted humans in such numbers that entire cultures have adapted with rituals of appeasement. Fishermen wear masks on the backs of their heads, believing it deters ambushes by making it appear they are always looking behind them. Shaman leave offerings in the forest to appease Dakin Raj, a tiger spirit said to control attacks. Here, predator behaviors alone blur into myth as the line between flesh and blood tiger and supernatural hunter dissolves. Survival demanded not just weapons, but stories.
Getting back to Africa, there's getting back into cryptids. There's the story of the Gumamani of the Congo River Basin, which is described as a crocodile serpent hybrid, up to 40 feet long, with a serrated back and a jaw capable of overturning canoes. Sightings go back decades, with fishermen reporting attacks on their boats that left gouges and shattered wood. Inconsistent with hippos or crocodile attacks. Western researchers sometimes frame it as a relic dinosaur. I don't know if that's less frightening or more.
Right?
Akin to the Mokil Mimbi. But the locals, to the locals, it's simply a predator that waits beneath the water, embodying the fear of venturing too far downriver.
So you know why there's no vampires in Africa, don't you?
Why?
Because holy water can kill them, and they bless the rains down in Africa. Okay, I'm gonna quit now.
Yes.
Had to
Damn
be
it.
done.
I'm gonna have to go listen to the. No, I'm gonna have to go listen to Leo's version of that to burn it from my head.
To be fair, the only reason that stuck in my head so bad is I saw a reel of Nathan Fillion telling that joke, and now it's permanently burned in my brain.
That'll do it.
It was kind of awesome, though. So, back to the cryptids, now that I've scarred Amish for the evening. The Popabawa of Zanzibar adds another wrinkle. The bat-winged figure first appeared in the 1970s and triggered full-blown panics. In the 1990s, entire villages fled their homes at night, gathering in groups to sleep in open courtyards, believing isolation made one vulnerable. So you decided to sleep outside? I don't. Anyway, so the Popabawa was said to assault families in their sleep, leaving victims injured and terrified. Unlike other predators, its target was not livestock or the unlucky hunter, but the domestic safety of the home itself. Skeptics point to political instability and the power of rumor in Zanzibar at the time, but the panic was real enough that it disrupted life for weeks. Here, the predator doesn't just haunt the margins, it invades the heart of the community. That's a weird one.
The interesting thing about all these, predators is that they cross the line from animal to archetype. The Beast of Giduvon, was a symbol of France's vulnerability in a time of political unrest. The Savo lions were used as proof of Africa's savagery by colonial writers, despite being just perfectly natural animals. The Sundarbans tigers, they're both real predators and spirits demanding to be worshipped. The Papabawa became a vessel for collective fear in a politically fractured, country. Each case shows the same pattern where predators press too close to human survival, and the line between, just your average monster and a myth collapses. It becomes they become the legend in and of themselves. They've Our fear plus their predation makes them mythical.
And well, I mean, and you're not wrong, and there are cross-cultural echoes in all of this stuff. In medieval Europe, the black dog haunted crossroads and lonely paths, a spectral predator with burning eyes that precedes death. In China, tales of the Tatui described a monstrous, insatiable maw that devours endlessly, a mythic reflection of famine and greed, not unlike the Wendigo that we discussed earlier. In Mesoamerica, the Nahul, shape-shifting predators who could become jaguars or coyotes, blurred the line between sorcerer and beast, echoing fears of betrayal within the community itself. Everywhere, predators become monstrous when they represent more than just hunger.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue that all this, serves as, practical survival roles. In regions plagued by lions or tigers or bears, oh my, these retellings reinforce caution, ensured children to stay close to camp, codified respect for the dangers of the wilderness. But they speak into something deeper, the recognition that predators, natural or otherwise, they embody chaos in the civilization that we build, and they resist it. As much as we press into the wilderness, they press back. And, these are reminders that humans are not always the apex, and in certain places, we're still prey.
So, modern parallels continue to this day in this theme. Reports of phantom cats, black panthers, or cougars spotted in Britain, where no wild populations exist, evoke the same unease. Farmers find mauled sheep, hikers report large cats crossing trails, and though most cases are written off as misidentified dogs, the persistence of sightings shows a cultural hunger for predator myths, even in industrialized landscapes. When real predators vanish, we invent them anew.
These predators that have crossed into legend often do so not because they're the deadliest, but because they transgress expectations. Wolves killed livestock across Europe, but the Godovan beast killed humans in uncanny ways. Lions killed villagers across Africa, but the Savo pair hunted organized camps. Tigers kill silently in the jungle, but not people fishing on the side of a river. And these attacks are so persistent that spiritual frameworks were built around them. That these were elevated into something bigger. Symbols of places where human mastery falters. We become the prey.
And what unites all of these things is the enduring sense of being hunted, whether by a lion that drags you from your tent, a tiger that stalks you from the mangroves, or a bat winged creature that violates the sanctity of your home. These predators invert the human order. They don't wait for you to intrude into the wild, into their spaces. They come for you where you live. The inversion is why the legends endure, because it's the opposite of everything that we believe is part of modern society. We can go into these spaces and we can hunt them. They're not supposed to come into our spaces and hunt us.
Well, yeah, and as in we talk about this on the political end all the time, but civilization is built on the presumption of safety. And when you have these, the Sava lions, the Popobawa, these all represent that it's an illusion. That they're not metaphors of our choosing. These events communities couldn't ignore, and interpreted it through the only language they had, story. And so whether it's in 18th century France, 19th century Kenya, or 20th century Zanzibar, the pattern repeats. The predator hunts too well, too persistently, too strangely, and then the world bends, or civilization bends around it, turning fact into legend. And what's left is, not a solved case, but trauma. And, it's retold until the predator becomes part of its own cultural landscape.
It's terrifying, ain't it?
Yeah, it's from the north, whether it's the Wendigo that's waits in hunger, or the back roads of the Goatmen, they all focus on the same core fear. We are not alone. We are not always the hunters. These aren't benevolent spirits or tragic shapeshifters. These are predators, entities defined by the fact that they seek us out and test our boundaries and sometimes tear through us and them.
Oh. So I guess the takeaway for all of this, though, is whether it's 18th century France, 19th century Kenya, or 20th century Zanzibar, the pattern repeats. A predator hunts too well, too persistently, too strangely, and the world bends around it, turning fact into legend. What's left is, in fact, not any form of a solved case, but a scar retold until the predator becomes part of the cultural landscape. And we've seen this over and over and over again in all of these stories. These things have persisted to the point where everybody knows about them. Even in the regional ones, everybody in those regions knows about them. And for the bigger ones, the ones that stories and tales of them have spanned hundreds of thousands of miles, there's details that just remain intact across this continent-wide game of telephone that would be nearly impossible when you think about it, unless there was something driving the details to remain the same. Because, and I've talked about this before, we played the game telephone all the time when we were kids. You could start the most just normal little sentence, and by the time it got around the room, it was something completely different. Can you imagine the stories remaining this much the same across hundreds of miles? And not only hundreds of miles, but we're talking about months and weeks and years of travel time for these stories to be remaining the same.
What I find interesting about all this is that, it's that all these stories, they tap into something primal. They remind us the old truth that, for most of our history, we were prey. The woods, the swamps, the rivers, they belong to something else. And, when we put these predators into our folklore, we're not just describing what hunts us, but we're admitting the world isn't domesticated and it never will be.
Well, and that's just it. You're right. I don't think it ever will be completely domesticated. Oh man.
Yeah, because even if we pave over every square inch, there's. Oh man, I'm sorry.
Well, I feel like there's going to be more that he's going to type in a second, but I didn't even know that happened. So
yeah, really neither.
I'm so sorry. So yeah, in the chat, a quick personal anecdote. When my daughter lost her battle with cancer this past July, almost immediately our dogs who were sleeping in their run in the backyard went nuts. That's interesting.
Yeah, that ties into, when we did the show about, quantum mechanics and time and the Akashic field, I'm convinced the dogs can tap into it too. It's not just our own prescience.
Yeah, I'm a little mad at Hollywood right now because Corin and I were supposed to be doing the show about the Akashic field, and he's been busy doing Hollywood stuff, so we haven't been able to.
Yeah, we're supposed to have him on to talk about Atlantis, but that's
unfortunately
we're deep in. We're just kicking off Juxtober right now, so.
Yeah, I told him if we couldn't get it done before, it'd probably have to be after, and he's like, "That's fine," because I've got some Hollywood projects I'm gonna have to work on for a while, and then his mom started having issues, so he had to go take care of her for a while too. And I'm like, dude, just table the show for now. It'll be here when you're ready. So
yeah,
I don't want you feeling like you got to stress over a podcast, my man. But no, I mean, it's just all of these things that just feed into one another, and
Yeah,
it's astounding to me to think about.
but it was like I was saying is that even if we pave over every square inch of land, that's a deep blue ocean, deep blue ocean. Which strangely is what we were going to be talking about next week. We covered the hunters. Now we're going to be dealing with the aquatics.
Oh boy. Oh yeah.
That's I've always said I'm not afraid of the ocean. I have a healthy respect for it, and that was born. I was snorkeling in Maui, and if you've been to Maui, you've been out in the ocean around Maui, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Where you'll be swimming in a depth of 20, 30 feet, and then the coral ends, and it is just an abyss right below you. And that, ever since that moment when I just realized the depth, you conceptualize, because, from that, I had a healthy respect to the ocean. That, and when my dad and I were swimming back to the shore, a barracuda was swimming right next to us. He kept telling me, stay away from those rocks, and then he's nudging me into the rocks. And then I look over on the other side of him, and we're getting paralleled by a decent sized barracuda. So,
BZ, if fish pee in it, I don't swim in it.
Yeah. Provides me. I don't know if you had them across the rest of the country, but we had them in California with the arrowhead water bear. I don't know what the zoological term for is, but I'm quite thirsty after hibernation. And yeah, there's a creek over there. Do you know what fish do in that? They spawn. That's a little too natural for me.
Yeah, so speaking of being scarred as a child, my grandfather, who already knew that I really didn't like drink as a kid, I didn't really like drinking water that much. I preferred juice, Kool-Aid, even if it was something flavored added to the water.
Yeah, unless it was hose watered flavor.
Well, I mean, and that was just kind of, I was outside. It was so damn hot. I didn't care anymore. But for like 2 days, I would not touch any water. And my mom wanted to strangle my grandfather. And it was because of this stupid joke that he used to tell everybody. Because he was like, you look thirsty. You want me to get you a drink? And I'm like, yeah, I guess some water. And he's like, that stuff's not good for you, right? I'm like, what do you mean? That's what my parents tell me I need to drink all the time. He's like, it's terrible for you. Fish fucking it. I'm like, you suck. Now, keep in mind, I'm like 7 years old, and my grandfather just dropped the F-bomb. People wonder why I cuss so much.
Whereas I use it as a comma. I was born a construction worker's son.
Right.
So.
Oh.
So, yeah. First show in the bag. 4 more to go. I'm hoping I've plotted this out so that way in the 5th week on November 1st, we can have a round table.
That would be awesome.
And Aggie, I'd love you to be there for that.
Trying to get BZ to join us again for the Bigfoot one, because
that'd be good too.
Topics. So, and I don't know. I guess we could have we can have up to 10 people on, so we could do a hell of a round table. It would be you, and 8 other people.
Yeah, as we found on Manorama, when you get too many people, then you might as well have none.
Well, that's when you got to just do the traffic cop thing, and you know how it gets anyway. Usually, if there's that many people on, I just start pushing buttons and let you guys talk. So it's kind of how it works. Anyway.
Flip the switch, monkey.
No switch flippings. Well, I guess in a minute or so, anyway. So, dude, we have like over 1,000 people hanging out with us right now. I just did.
That's awesome. I mean, cryptids are something everybody can relate to. It's like I was talking about. Everybody's got their local beast. Especially, I mean, again, maybe not so much in the city, but, even in the city, on the edges, I get LA news here, and I still hear about cougars and mountain lions. I better say mountain lions, because cougars is more my,
But, I was going to say cougars means something else anymore.
Yeah, no, but, mountain lions, they get down, not deep into the city, but deep into the suburbs. So, I mean, they're out there, and, I mean, where I'm at, I remember I went on this one job site, and I was, out there by myself, and I'm looking down at this paw print, and I'm all, either somebody was walking their dog here, or that's a big fucking cat, and I'm going to be a meal here soon. So
fun times, right?
Yeah. It was either a medium-sized dog or one of the big cats. And intellectually, I know they're out there, and I still go in there. But again, armed human.
Oh, we got so close. We're at 986. Almost made it.
Oh, that's good enough. That's a rounding error. I'll take it. God, thank you all. Thank you all for listening to us tonight. Remember, we got 4 more weeks of this. If you're into cryptids, we're the show you want to hang on.
Yep, and like we said, this is our usual. So normally for October, now most of the time you guys will typically get this every couple of weeks because we weren't able to do that very well. We finally started figuring out we were able to do the show better on our former off weeks than our own. So, which is why we swapped. But so far with everything that I'm doing everything I can to schedule anything that I have going on, not on Saturdays. Like I have 2 weddings in the same week that I have to perform, one on like the 16th and the other one on the 19th. And they were trying to push for the 18th. And I'm like, can we do the 19th, please? And thank you. That would be awesome. If not, I'll figure it out. But yeah, they went for the 19th, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I've got one thing I've got to do next Saturday, but it's early in the day. So, I mean, things would have to go cataclysmically. I'm not going to jinx it. We'll be here.
Shush. Okay. So the other thing is because, and it's kind of become a thing. When we started launching Juxtober and started picking a topic that we were doing for the entire month, a lot of other hosts started weighing in. So Monday, I have got to check out Spirited Books because Aggie found a book that ties into cryptids somehow, and I got to hear about this. So.
Oh, fantastic! That's great.
Yeah.
What do you got going on this week?
Tomorrow night I'll be doing the new show that I launched about a week or so ago. Actually, I guess it's up to 2 weeks ago now. Kingdom and Country. Gonna be, for now, it'll be an Al's time spot until Al comes back because he's on break for October. And then Monday night I'll be doing America Off the Rails. Tuesday the Daily Show starts up again. That's 10 a.m. And then Tuesday night Manorama. And then for everything else, just check the schedule because I'm pretty much on every day of the week again because I'm insane.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Anyway, what about you? What do you got going on?
Tomorrow I've got the Vincent Charles Project where myself and Vincent and Jeff and Janelle Waz will be discussing the movie Sneakers, the Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier, Dan Aykroyd, River Phoenix, got everybody who's in there, Mary McDonald. It's just a great cast. Ben Kingsley. We'll be talking about that movie tomorrow. Tuesday I've got Manorama with you and maybe Jeff, Steve, Vincent, some random Canadian, and we should say that he's back in Canada now. And Wednesday, I've got Rick and Orty with you, but it's my light week, so I've got nothing to do but get us ready for the next show.
Nice. And so as far as everything else, make sure if you are so inclined that you're following along with KLRN Radio on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Rumble. You can find me at Radiovic73. I also contribute to MisfitsPolitics.com, Twitchy.com, and LotsParty.com. And I produce the Lots Party podcast, which drops on Tuesdays. And
remember, if you like the music you hear on the show during the breaks, if you like the music on Jeff's show, Jeff has his album dropping on Monday on Amazon.
You should go check it out. Yeah. Check it out. You want to buy it. Hell, I'm probably going to buy it. Bye, everybody.
Hail Hydra.
No hailing of the Hydra. We've had this discussion.
Hail the Hydra. Hydra's